Hey there, hey there. So get out there, get known. How do you get out there, get known? You want to get on CNN, you want to get in the newspaper, you want to get on the major podcasts, you want to be seen everywhere, but how do you actually do it? So this is why I do this podcast. I'm Dr. Pam Perry, and we do this podcast to help you with PR tips and how to really work with the media, how to build media relations. And I have someone today that has been about it for a long time in the industry, Delano and Massey. And he has been in the business. He's been in print. He's been in television. He's in digital. And I want to say that he's looking at his career. He was born for this. So you kind of hear why I say that right after this. We're going to bring up Delano.
Welcome to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast. Join Pam Perry, veteran PR strategist, Emmy award-winning producer and publisher of Speakers Magazine, who will show you how to crack the code in getting out there to get known. Each week, she either interviews her media friends, PR colleagues, or she just goes solo, offering you strategies on publicity, publishing, and platform building. So listen up to hear how to get booked on media places and on superstar stages. Now, here's your host, Pam Perry.
Hey there. I'm so glad to have you. So this is a switch for you. So I'm interviewing you. So this is because I know you're always drilling other people. So this is a switch. But first of all, I want people to know a little bit. You're from the Midwest. You spent a little time in Kentucky. You've done some sports. You've done youth. You worked at CNN. You've done a lot of things. And what has been, I guess you would say, like your favorite thing that you've done? Like which area has been like, ooh, it's using all of my juice?
Well, first, thank you for having me. Like I'm honored, I'm flattered to be here. And also to sit in the hot seat is actually fine. It's fine. Like I would appreciate being able to help other people, especially if there's something that I can pass on to them. I think I've had many different roles that have given me different kinds of rewards. Certainly, I think working at CNN during the tumultuous summer of 20, that required me to sort of step up in a lot of different ways. And maybe it was a realization of sorts that a lot of the work that I had done had come to a culmination. I was a cops reporter and also a courts reporter, and I covered local, state, federal courts. But to be at CNN, I was basically helping to guide justice coverage, district court, and also Supreme Court coverage. But then I had also led race coverage at the Associated Press. And in that moment, they were basically like, help us to figure out where we should be in this particular moment. And I think there were a lot of stories that came out in 2020 that were extremely impactful, but also just giving voice to some of the things that probably wouldn't have gotten that kind of coverage at CNN, and being sort of an architect in the sense of that team and thinking about the conversation around race. And so that was probably, like, in terms of like the impact and career impact, that was certainly it.
I saw that. I said, whoa. I said, in 2020, you were covering legal, justice, diversity, all the things during the period of time of COVID, and then everyone marching, not just in the United States, but all across the world because of the murder of George Floyd. And you are kind of at the helm of one of the largest news gathering organizations in the world. That's a lot. That's a lot. That's kind of heavy. When I saw that, I said, oh my God. So I don't know if you are part of NABJ. Are you part of NABJ? Okay.
In fact, I'm the vice president of print for the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists.
Okay. All right. So this year, that's where NABJ is going to be.
It's going to be
in the ATL. And then I think they have the Hall of Fame people and that sort of thing. And then obviously the honors of Salute to Excellence, that sort of thing. Have you won any of that? Because I mean, we have the other type of awards, but have you won any NABJ awards? Those are the ones that
I have not.
So busy doing the work.
I'm not in the an ABJ Hall of Fame yet. I think
Okay.
I
All
think I
right.
have more time.
All right. All right. There was one I went to NABJ when it was in Detroit.
Yes.
Jamel Hill was
2017.
in the yeah, she was in there, and I it was right after she left ESPN, that kind of
Right.
thing. And she was on the cover of NABJ. That was so Jamel is like left that situation, and she was just in Detroit not too long ago, and I was looking at her career, and again, people don't realize that people who want to be journalists, career
Mhm.
journalists, they have a different drumbeat.
Yeah.
They have a curiosity, and they are a drum major, drum major for justice. So, what was your spark going
Mm.
back, Delano, of when you said, "This is something I want to do"? Was it like looking at, like, I don't know, Max Robinson or Brian Gumbel, or was it looking at a sports reporter? What was the spark, or was it a teacher that said, "Hey, you're a really good writer. You need to go into journalism"?
Yeah, I think a couple of things. Like one, my uncle told me that if you married your purpose and passion together, then it wouldn't feel like work. I
Mhm.
knew that I could write. It was clear to me that that was like a gift. And I think my senior year of high school, I got to shadow a journalist,
Ah,
and I spent the last month of my senior year of high school basically following a reporter who covered like the Cleveland Cavaliers, the Guardians, and he was covering like prep sports. And it just gave me insight into a world that I had never thought about. And
mhm.
he was actually the person that told me, Rick Nolan, he told me to, pursue journalism because he was like, well, you won't make a lot. You might not be rich, but you can enjoy what you are doing. I'm
Stop
always
right stop right there. I want people to understand that, because I have friends who were in journalism, and they did not go in it for the money, okay? So
yes,
when people are thinking like, "I wanna be an anchor and I wanna make, like, I don't know, Tamron Hall money or whatever," they have to realize when you start out and you're doing these reporter beats,
yeah,
you're basically almost 15, 20, $30 an hour
yeah,
employees not making money. And so you're doing it not for the money, but you're doing it for something bigger than that. So I want people to understand that, because when people approach you to pitch you,
yeah.
it's they got to know the vibe of where you're coming from. So go on, go on.
Yeah, I mean, there's I probably by the time I got to college, I realized the power of journalism, or at least the power of the written word.
Mhm.
Being like I was working on my college newspaper as a reporter, and then I ascended the ranks from reporter to editor, and eventually editor in chief. And what was clear is that my community, my campus community, did need like a mouthpiece, and they needed somebody that was advocating for the things that were happening on campus, or at least to be able to ask some of the tough questions. And that was something that came from me working at the paper, whether it was questioning the parking tickets, or parking passes, the increase in prices, or asking questions about snow removal. Like I was in proximity to people who I could get answers from. And I think after I started in sports, and then I ended up doing news because they didn't have a news editor. And
Mm,
in that time frame, I just realized that there are important stories that I could tell from the news desk, and
mhm.
it just stuck with me.
Yeah.
And I think that you watch these shows like you watched All the President's Men when you're in journalism class. We also watch The People versus Larry Flint and understand like what press freedom is,
Mhm.
and that could be challenged. And so I certainly started my career thinking about how I could make an impact by doing the work, and how words can actually make an impact or make a difference in a community. And so I certainly started my career with that clear trajectory in mind, thinking about how my journalism could actually make a difference in society.
I like that. I like that. Did you know, so sports, moving from sports to news, it is different. It's a whole different beat. There was a reporter at the Detroit Free Press, um, and it may be before your time, but his name was Drew Sharp. I don't know
Mhm.
if you knew Drew Sharp. That's my cousin. That
Oh,
was
well,
my cousin. Yeah.
I grew up coincidentally. So being from Ohio, I looked at the Free Press quite a bit, and
Yeah, that's what I was asking. I was like, did you know Drew? Yeah.
this industry is small. I grew up thinking, reading Mitch Albom. His
Mhm.
albums were very good, and so I was always like looking at what was happening in that market.
Yeah. Yeah, in terms of journalism too, Drew started, local sports,
Mhm.
not making a lot of money, and then eventually it can grow if you're a columnist,
Yes,
and like you said, the Mitch album, and then you write the books, and then you
yes,
do the television and all those things, and this was, Drew passed about 10 years ago, and, the it was different then. It was so different. I don't know what it would be like if he was here now, what it would be, but the whole digital piece now that you're working with,
mhm,
and tell us about what you're doing now in terms of how local journalism and digital online pieces are really serving. I mean, not to say that when Drew and you all were doing things back then 10 years ago, online wasn't a thing. It was still there, but
yeah.
it's really accelerated now. So now with AI, it's even more accelerated. So kind of tell me about the pivots that you had to make.
Yeah.
And that's real interesting.
This is a conversation I was actually having with a mentee earlier today, and I think I've had some longevity in a sense in my career because I've been willing to pivot.
Yeah.
Um, and I had likened it to like that old Bugs Bunny flick with the tortoise and the hare, and how like slow and steady could win the race. And so there are people who might take the fast track, and that seems like it would be very appealing. But there's also something to being planted, being rooted, and sort of sitting in something and learning it,
Mhm.
and being like a student of the craft. And going back to what my mentor had said about not making a lot of money, is true in a sense, right? Like my first job, I think I started out at 27,000, but me moving also helped me to to earn more too, right?
That part, you guys move a lot.
Uh,
A lot. Anybody who's gone into media move a lot. I'm
yeah,
like, how do you even meet people? Because
it,
by the time you get to meet them, it's like, oh, I got to move. I'm moving on.
it's time to go. But now, like I'm at a place that I work at Axios. I am supervising now 12 markets in the Midwest, and that includes like Chicago, includes the Twin Cities, Des Moines, the heartland of America. And now we're delivering news to people's phones, ideally. Like in a sense, like
Mhm.
our newsletters um, were sent by 6:30, so this is the way that you should in theory start your day. They're accessible online too, but when Axios was built, they were thinking about people's short attention span, smart brevity. And so for me, it appealed to me because at that stage, like I started out as a newspaper reporter, and then in a very small market in a small newsroom, and have made many different jumps. And then the second half of my career was largely television, so working at local TV, the CBS affiliate in Lexington, and then going back to Cleveland and working there at News 5 Cleveland, and working at the AP, and working for AP Television,
Mhm.
and then eventually going to CNN. So to me, newsletters seem like a next step in another evolution of the way that people are going to consume their news. And so for me, I tell people I'm very fluent in most platforms of media, but newsletters was one that I wanted to learn because it seemed like the next thing to actually learn.
That is good. The thing about what you said that people are consuming it on their phone, it's I used to work at the Free Press as well with Drew. Uh, the print is like nobody wants that anymore, but I think it might become retro again. I really do. I think people like will be like, "Oh, what is that? That's like a broadsheet. This is a tabloid. This is." I think it become retro again. I don't know how, but yeah, that is making those pivots and knowing what's next is really important. Like you said, for you to stay in the game,
It is.
and every skill that you have and every beat that you had has kind of built on. Nothing is wasted,
No.
and I do think that doing the news the way you're doing it now is the way people are going to really consume it.
Mhm.
Now, when there's a lot of talk about integrity in the news and ethics in the news, and used to teach as well journalism and things like that. Where does that how has that shifted and changed so much so that people aren't believing what they call legacy media anymore? So how do you train, I guess, your journalists, or combat that stigma, I guess you would say, like, oh, you can't trust the media.
I think there will always be a place for trusted messengers. And I think what ends up changing, historically speaking, is the distribution platform. I tell people I'm also a student of history. I like to read, but I also like to look at media's history. And the AP was literally delivered on horseback once upon a time. And it has had to evolve over the years as we have seen technology advance to the ability to write stories using typewriters, to being able to transmit it over radio waves, to television, and eventually the internet. And for me in my career in the last 25 years, like I started out and the internet was a new thing. Like for the most part,
Mhm.
people were just using email to send chain letters and jokes, and that evolved, right? Like we had to figure out how to adapt to this, and I think that what my advice even to like the younger journalists, so going back to my mentee, she said that she was discouraged from print. Well, most of the time like that might evolve, but you have to pay attention to the changes. Like sometimes people can't see around the corner, but true visionaries can. They can see like the full landscape. Like we're watching
Mhm.
everything shift and we're losing cable television in the same way that newspapers also started to sort of erode away as a distribution model. But now we're
Right.
starting to see platforms like YouTube and TikTok and Instagram emerge in a way that probably people couldn't have imagined 5 years ago. And so now this is creating opportunities and space for people who know the craft, who are experts and subject matter experts in this space, and that have proven themselves as trusted messengers. And so they can sort of separate themselves from the people who are, peddling mis and disinformation. And there's going to always be a need and appetite for that because
Mhm.
what is true, and I tell people this, like, I don't think media goes anywhere. Like, if Paul Revere said the British is coming, that's quite literally like the dissemination of news in the same way that hieroglyphics were once used as a way to convey a message. So, however people consume it, that might change, but usually it's the next generation that makes that decision. And the next generation says that they love social media and they also love streaming. And so that's the space that we should actually start to curate, cultivate, and build in.
Mhm. They do like the TikTok and the streaming. There is a way to, let's just say there's a legacy magazine, okay, Ebony. I loved Ebony, right? And I love Jet too.
Me too.
So not having the vision, what you just said, the seeing what's around the corner, how people want to consume, not what it is that you were doing. You could still do cover the same type of stories, but the way that it was handed off, it's like you didn't see this coming.
Yes.
So the way people love right now is video, like you said, streaming, TikTok, that sort of thing, and bringing in someone with that vision to say, okay, Jet Magazine, we were just a little bite-sized thing weekly anyway. Let's make a TikTok channel. Let's just make it those kind of things. It's the same way, kind of like a TMZ, but shorter. But for black, it's they had that market, they had that niche, but it takes a vision to know what is next.
Yes.
I look at Heart and Soul. I just talked with the owner of Heart and Soul magazine today, and they have on the platform the regular part of the magazine, but then
Mhm.
they also have video on the sidebar as well because people want to consume it that way on the phone. So
Yeah.
just knowing those type of things are really, really important.
Mhm.
There's some things that will never go away: coverage of sports, coverage of certain things, uh, the beats you were talking about, the cops and the courts. That's always going to be important. But it's that this is other thing that comes up in between that, and that's that citizen journalist, right?
Yeah.
The person who caught the police murdering George Floyd on their phone,
Yeah.
that sort of thing. So how do you they're not influencers, they're just people who have their phone. They have the power to really share and show something. So how do you use that type of content? If someone says, "Hey, I got something I really want to send to you, it's on my phone," can you use that as a story? Are you finding more, since you maybe don't have as many reporters, maybe you're using more the public?
That happened. I mean, look, that's been probably since Michael Brown, right? That was the first
Mhm.
time that we got to really see across geographic boundaries. Like now, it's more routine, but certainly when I was at AP and at CNN, if somebody had a video and we weren't there, we would absolutely ask them if we could have permission to use their video or to re-air or replay the video. Um,
Mhm.
I think we see that more and more. I think the same whenever there was the shooting by the federal agents in Minneapolis. We saw one video that somebody had given us, and I was like, okay, well, we have enough that we can write off of this because we can write what we see. But I guarantee you, probably in another couple of hours, we're going to see multiple angles of this. And that was true. We're probably entering in a space where it is second nature for a person to pull out their phone and record it.
Yeah.
Um, and so there are more eyes on the streets than ever. And there are also more cameras in streets than ever, like flock cameras, drone cameras, police departments are playing with. But the ability to sort of see into what happened might be more powerful in what people hold in their hand versus what we thought would happen with the advent of body cameras for police.
Mhm.
In a lot of ways, like, people are, I wouldn't call them journalists. They are certainly people who are in a position to capture what's happening. But if Darnella Frazier is not um, able to see what happened to George Floyd, then that doesn't actually stop the world, right?
Mm.
So the importance of what the technology has given us is actually like it's a valid thing for us to try to figure out how we can incorporate it. The burden is still on news organizations to figure out like the ethics and the integrity around that, as you mentioned.
Yeah, that part. And also the truth, because people can send you videos that are not true. So AI is a thing. They are getting smarter and smarter, and it's more and more. And I am just amazed. We are live. We are not AI. So
Yeah.
we're actually here. But sometimes people can't tell. So if someone says, "Hey, I seen your video, this is what happened," you
Mhm.
have to decide or look and see if this is really true, which is a whole nother conversation.
It is.
Do you use AI at, your organization?
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, okay, alright.
If
'Cause
you
it's
if you have been following, if you know our CEO Jim Vanderhyde, he is a very early adopter and disciple of AI, and we have enterprise level access to it. I think more than 90% of our company is using it in some capacity to build GPTs, to build agents, uh,
mm,
to help us to comb through our emails, like to try to build efficiencies and better
mhm,
workflow processes. But yeah, prior to that, I was using it. And I think that this technology, much like as we started talking about the internet, I saw, and believe that it is as important as that because what is true is it's not going anywhere. Um,
mhm,
and I think despite like some of the hesitancy that especially media companies have actually had about it, our take was to figure out how to like use it and to use it to our benefit, to make our journalism better, to make it easier for our staff, because we would rather be at the forefront of it, working with it, and figuring out the boundaries around like the integrity and the ethics. But rather us do that than to try to figure it out later after it's passed us by.
Has it, uh, cut any jobs, journalism jobs, you think, overall? Just you think, or have people pivoted to something else?
I think that it transforms jobs.
Okay.
So some of the work that maybe would have involved other people, it has shifted that focus because there is now a way to do it in a more efficient manner. And I think, at least so far in our experience, it has been, learn how to use it so that your job becomes more valuable in that sense too, so that it becomes like an asset around the work that you're doing and not a detriment.
Mm,
So I haven't seen it in that sense. Like we're not going to replace people with robots because we think that that's going to be a better way to tell stories. I think
yeah.
you have to have a creator that is actually helping to pilot it, and also like I believe everyone needs an editor, including AI.
That's good. I like that. I hope the journalists that are watching this hear that part, right? That you still need a pilot for this plane. Okay, so you do need to to know how to write, and you do know how to edit, because you can chat GPT and all those other ones. They can make up stuff. Okay, they can make it up really, really good.
Or get it right.
Yeah. So someone who is a subject matter expert and they have written a book, and they just think, if I just have someone just talk to me on a major platform, I will be a New York Times bestseller. Of course, of course, that's the dream, right? That's the dream. So how do they approach you? How do they approach an assignment desk, a news editor? What is it that they say? What do they do first? I wrote a little bit about media relations, about getting to know the publication. You got to watch the show, but let's just hear it from your words.
I would say in every place that I've been, I get inundated with pitches. Probably at CNN more than any other place that I've been at. And at CNN, you have to learn how to read your email just to be able to get through your email, which is like a whole nother thing. I think at Axios, it's starting to get to that point now where, I get a lot of emails. I would tell people, like, know the platform and know how to make the connections. And so, like, if you have somebody that you're trying to pitch and I'm over the Midwest and it's one of my markets, like, do some of that research ahead of time to know, like, what's going to appeal to me. If it's something that's in Chicago, there's a potential through line that's there. If it's something that's in Chicago and it's connected nationally, even better. So I think just knowing, like, who your audience is. And I also think that something that might be lost or might have gotten lost is the value of relationships. Like, most of the people who have known me are still people who reach out to me. Like, they will text me, they followed me, they followed my career. One publicist, Judy Duran, we have literally known each other since we both started our careers.
Wow.
So when I was an intern at the Beacon Journal, she was just starting her career as a publicist, and we have basically, like, gone through this entire thing together. And I think that there's a value in that, just being able to, like, reach out to that person that and say, hey, text me and ask me, like, if this is a story, because I'll tell you if it's not, but I also work with you to get it to the point where I'm like, okay, I can work with this.
I like that. What you just said was really important, that they started with you at the Beacon Journal and she still keep in touch with you, followed your career. And I always tell people, never put your nose down or, look down to any media, outlet because it's small, because people change. So I remember Madison Gray, long time ago, he started at the Detroit News. All right. He was an intern. He was working and then he moved up, and I think he worked for AP, worked for Time, he worked for BET. Now he's an executive editor at the Amsterdam News, but he started way back here. So I always tell people, I says, they could be starting somewhere. I said, and pretty soon they're going to be the supervising producer for, J-HUD or Tamron Hall or something like that. So never really, if there's something I could tell people, it's like, any person who is a journalist, journalists know each other, befriend them, see what it is you could help them make their job easier. Become a person that is a source for them, and knowing what it is that you can assist them, especially if you are a subject matter expert and a particular subject and they cover that subject. Follow them. They're covering probably the same type of beat wherever they're going. If they're in, Kentucky, or if they're in Cleveland, that is so important. I'm glad you said that, because there are some people say, I don't want to be on that. I was like, listen, you never know where they're going to end up. And that's really, really important. You treat everybody with respect, but it is something about the media opportunities where people are not, it's like, oh, I just only want to be in Essence. I don't want to talk to the local magazine.
Yeah. And I will say, I had somebody who had reached out to me, and they were trying to they wanted a national story. And I was like, okay, that you realize that we have about more than 30 newsletters across the entire country. And if I take your story and then I run it through the national pipeline, you now have a national story, right? And so I was like, just follow the logic here. Like, you can actually, like, anchor this here. There was a story out of Texas. You can do the story in Texas, but it's also a story that is national. So you can take that story from Texas, put it in the newsletter, and then national will pick it up. And then you've achieved an even bigger goal than what you had, trying to get it to the smaller shop. And I think that's one of the realizations that people have had even about Axios. Like when we came in, like nobody knew what Axios was. Like my sister was like, "Why are you leaving CNN to go to a what?" And that changed. Like the conversation has changed now. But I
Mhm.
think people sometimes don't see like the possibility, but like the person that you have a relationship with can help you figure out. And also it's not just that. Like people have reached out to me who are publicists and they're like, "Delano, can you do this?" No, but I know such and such at the New York Times,
Right.
or one of my mentees is over at the Guardian in LA. Like there's opportunities that might exist beyond what a person sees because I'm just
Mhm.
entry.
Yeah, media people know each other. Like we were just starting. You go to NABJ and you know media people from all over the country. You probably had worked at one point maybe with Roland Martin, and he worked with
He's
Chicago
he's my
Defender.
friend.
Yeah, that's right. I saw that. That's it. That's it. So you just never know. That's one of the main things that people have to understand, that you guys are people, and
Yeah,
and you got real lives, and you do this for a reason. I mean,
yeah,
you could be doing anything else, but you decided to do this. So it's like when people come to you and just pitch in their book, it's like, you know what? Really? I
yeah.
always tell people, I said, this is they are not the advertising department.
No,
They're trying to tell stories. So find the story. So that is really, really, really important. I just thank you. I promise you 30 minutes is 31. But I knew it would go a little bit long. But I'm so glad that you knew my cousin Drew. It's actually my husband's first cousin. So just saying his name again just brings joy that he was remembered, and he was one of the few African American columnists at a major
right
daily.
here. Yeah,
It's
he's
it's
right here.
still not as many as it should be, but NABJ is still important 50 years later, right?
100%.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. How can people get in touch with you? I don't want them to start spamming you, but what's the best way that you like people to connect with you?
Look, I tell people all the time I'm accessible. Whether they listen or not, it's up to them. A couple people follow through, but I'm available on all platforms. It's usually just my name, it's Delano Massey, at
Mhm.
Delano Massey. And also at Axios, it's delano.massey at axios.com.
There you go. There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining me, Delano, and I just appreciate you, and keep up the good work. Okay.
Thank you. You too. I appreciate you.
All righty. God bless.
All right. Bye.
You've been listening to the Get Out There and Get Known podcast, brought to you by PamPerryPR.com, where you'll get insider tips on how to build your platform, pitch the media, and promote yourself with confidence. Head over to PamPerryPR.com and get the exclusive video training on the 7 must-have marketing materials you need before you pitch in order to be considered in media places or superstar stages. PamPerryPR.com, where you help you shine like a